Welcome to Fuzzy Memories, the podcast that celebrates the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We are three latchkey kids who made it out alive. I'm Amy.
I'm Erin.
And I'm Heath.
And today we're going to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the year 1990.
So, Erin, paint a picture for us. Where were you in 1990? What was happening in your life?
Well, I was 9.
Oh,
So,
I forget you're younger.
yeah. I'm a little bit younger.
Yeah.
So I was 9. I was
Okay.
in, I believe, well, if we're talking about the fall, I was in 5th grade.
Okay, all right.
Which is where I can remember the most
All
for
right.
some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a headspace that I thought that I was the greatest writer that ever lived in a 5th grade body. Ever.
Wow.
Yep. I wrote poems like
Damn.
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's some bold confidence.
It was overly bold
Okay.
for what it was. Yeah.
Have you kept any of those poems?
I think I came across them a few years ago, and
Okay.
they're things like, you know, what you would expect. Like,
Okay.
I saw a deer.
Oh, boy.
It glistened.
Oh,
I
no.
don't,
Oh,
you
no,
know,
not
All right.
like it was
Okay.
like, I like was really going for this.
You were
deep-
trying out the vocabulary.
Yes.
You were trying out all the
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Would
All
you
right.
say your poetry is better than Jewel's poetry book?
I think I could give her a run for
Okay,
her
okay,
money.
that's
Yeah.
fair.
I mean, I don't have maybe the star power coming in for the initial sales, but I think longer lasting.
So we're comparing Jules' poetry with 5th grade Erin. That's about the same talent level. That sounds right.
I think
Yeah.
if you put a picture of me in 5th grade on the cover, it's got a good gag gift.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
ability.
Yeah. And you grew up in Iowa. We all grew up in
Yes,
Iowa.
I grew up in
Okay. So
Iowa.
you were
Yep.
in Iowa in 5th grade,
And
and
just
you were
5th
the
grade.
greatest writer to ever write.
Yes.
The
I
greatest
just-
poet to ever poem.
And I also just wrote song lyrics down all the time.
Oh.
Like full, like I would, you know, this is back before we could
Like
just...
your own composition, or you would just remember them?
No,
Oh,
just
okay.
remember them.
Yeah.
And then I would, if I bought the tape, you know, before CDs, then I would like get the ones that had all the lyrics on the inside and be like, oh,
Yeah.
I misheard that
That was
line.
always disappointing when you would buy a
Yes.
cassette tape and they didn't have the lyrics in it.
It was so
rude.
disappointing.
It felt
Because
like-
we couldn't go
yeah.
to the internet and
No.
check what the words were. Yeah.
No, the internet was just a pebble in Al Gore's brain.
That's right. He hadn't invented it yet.
He
You're right.
hadn't invented it.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah.
just coming up with my own, what I thought the line was,
Wow.
and living my best life.
Living your best life. Yeah.
Unaware that I was about to get hit with middle school.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
all
that
of those
blissful
joys.
time before all that happened. Speaking of middle school,
Yeah.
Keith, where were you at this time in your
I
life?
was in middle school.
Yeah.
And when 1990 forced itself upon us.
Yes, yes. Assaulted us with full vigor. Woo. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think most of 1990 for me was spent trying to unpack the Milli Vanilli thing.
Oh,
with the
yeah. Was
That is
this year?
fair.
The
Yes.
Milli Vanilli- Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
They got their they won the Grammy for Best New
That's
Artist,
right.
and then they got it taken away
Taken
when
away.
everyone figured out that they had lip synced all of that.
Which we might discuss more later, but in doing research for this episode, I didn't realize that they lip sync on their actual album.
Yeah,
I thought they got it taken away just for the performance where they lip synced. I didn't know.
no, yeah, it was weird. It was just like I don't know what the people who actually sang on the album looked like. I would like to see them and be like, what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
like what was the
True.
deal? Like what was so bad about
Why
the
couldn't
way
you-
they looked that they just weren't the people
Yeah.
singing? You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, why they determined that was necessary to bring those two guys in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was that Beauty at the time? And the other two people were not?
I went like bad personality. Like they're like, we can't
Oh.
trust these people to do press.
Yeah.
Like they are
yeah.
just red flags all over the place.
Yeah.
Maybe a young Ron DeSantis. I don't know. Just, and they're like,
That sounds
you
right.
are a
Yeah.
mess.
That sounds right. Maybe George Santos. Maybe George Santos was in there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
tracks.
comfortable pinning the Milli Vanilli debacle on those two.
Yeah,
I
me
am.
too.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
That makes
I
a
like
lot of
that.
sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you were in the Milli Vanilli. You were focused very deeply on them. Anything else in the in that
Just
time frame?
just a very very slow driver, as with my permit.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Very slow driving.
I was liberal with the brakes.
As you should be. You were
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, I think a lot of people these days could be a little more liberal with the brakes.
Yes, they could.
I agree.
Were you scared when you were driving, do you think?
It was nerve wracking.
Yeah. Because you lived in a small town and then
Yes.
you had to get on the interstate. And the interstate is freaky.
And it was also, my parents both had very different styles of telling me how to drive. Like, my dad was very like, every single thing you did was not quite right. And
Okay,
he had a better
okay.
idea on how to do it. And,
Sure.
And my mom was sort of like, leave me alone. Quit asking me questions.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. When I started driving, my mom couldn't go anywhere near it. She's like, I just know this is going to be bad. And so Dad was the one that had
Just
to drive me.
opted out.
And then Dad made me drive like directly into snowbanks so that I would learn how to get out. Like that's the level of education we're talking there.
Two things about that. One,
Please.
as a parent, didn't know I could opt out. Really
Right.
like that
Yeah,
option.
yeah.
Really like that option.
Uh-huh.
Should have taken it. Two, have I failed him? I have not had him drive into any snowbanks.
I don't think you failed him because I remember that with searing pain.
Okay.
I remember a day where we had to do that multiple times and it was still snowing. And then by the time we got to our driveway and our driveway was at an incline and he was like, all right, gun it. And I got stuck. And then I was like, fuck this, I'm out. And that
Yes.
was like 14.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the first time I probably cursed in front of my dad.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so no, you are not missing the mark.
Okay.
By doing
Perfect.
But as an adult, I mean, you drive into snowbanks a lot, right? So it's been useful.
Always.
It's been a useful
Always.
skill.
I go straight for the snowbanks. Yep.
Just Amy parking the car just halfway in a snowbank every time.
Especially with my little Honda Fit. Go straight into the snowbanks.
You could lose that in a snowbank. You
Yeah,
can't be
right.
driving into snowbanks.
Some of those snowbanks they do at Target where they just
yeah.
pile every. Yeah, I would never be seen again.
Not till spring.
Gone exactly until it melted.
I do like the idea of you going into parking lots and seeking out that snowbank and parking in it.
We're like, this is for you, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your instruction.
My 1990, I was ending 7th grade, starting 8th grade. I was growing out a perm, so
Oh, yeah.
that was something.
That's a rite of passage.
That is a rite of passage.
That is a rite
It was
of
a perm that I
passage.
got at the start of 6th grade and persisted through all of middle school. And it was very, very, like I thought I was getting, because at the time my hair was more straight. Now my hair is sort of wavy. And I thought that's what I was getting. It turned out I did not because it was 1989 or whatever. And they're
Yeah.
like, let's get it tight curls.
Yeah.
And that's what I had.
As if they had a lot of people coming back in and saying, this isn't tight enough.
Right.
I don't know what
Give
you
me that
did,
tight.
but
Give me
this
that
is-
tight curl.
I didn't
didn't
ask for a
tighten it.
loose curl. I asked for a tight curl.
Yeah. How dare you?
Is it too late to rename the podcast Tight Curls?
I have a feeling that over our time together, we're going to come up with many names for the podcast. So, Fuzzy Memories,
Right.
tight curls.
Yeah. I mean, tight curls is great, actually.
Maybe that's the name of this episode, just tight curls.
Tight curls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In honor of your growing out your
honor.
perm in 1990.
Yeah. I've shown you a picture of it. I don't know if I've
It
shown
made
you.
it all. It's gonna make it all worth it. It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Who knew back in 1990?
So
Someday.
how long did that perm, like when do you feel like it fully grew out?
Has it grown out? Like, right now, is it still there?
Better question. He's question
I feel
first.
like maybe my hair just never was the same because now it's wavy. It's still growing out. I am 46 years old and it's still growing out.
So you're right for another PSA, which is don't perm your hair too soon. We don't know
perm
what
it.
it does to kids' texture.
Don't perm it. You'll burn it. Something like that.
We'll work on it.
that's
We'll workshop it, but it's a good start.
It felt like burning it. I remember that smell. Do you remember that perm smell? That was a strong, steady smell in 1990. So, shall we explore 1990?
Oh, let's.
I think what we're going to do each episode is take a look at the year in question through a number of different categories. And we've each got some thoughts on different categories. We didn't share our notes beforehand. We're going to surprise one another with our own different experiences of the year. We're going to talk about how it affected us physically, mentally, spiritually,
And our hair.
and
And our hair. As
every
it should
time
be.
I'll talk about how it affected my hair.
As
yeah.
it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to start us off?
Sure.
All right.
So we just get to start anywhere.
Yeah, start
Just
anywhere.
on anything.
What are you feeling right now about 1990? Tell us one of the things that you remember from one of our different categories.
Well, you know what's weird about 1990 is that I have some very specific memories of things that I know I could not have. I was obviously secretly consuming at the time.
Oh, okay.
Because we had some strict TV and movie rules. But when I looked at the things that premiered in 1990, I was like, I watched those. And I know that I wasn't supposed to, especially knowing that I was in 5th grade.
Can we also clarify that you were going to Catholic school at this time?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you probably had some very strict...
I was in a cult.
Yes. So had some very strict religious rules as well as parental rules.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say something else, and I edited.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
That was visual editing.
Oh, great. So,
all right, in front of you. But the first one that popped up was that Beverly Hills 90210 debuted in 1990.
It sure did. Yeah.
And I couldn't get enough of it.
So you at 9 years old, give me that 90210.
Yeah. Because it ended when I was in college. I want to say my freshman or sophomore year of college.
Like 2000, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
And so my freshman, and I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is the end of an institution. Like just being heartbroken. I watched it all the way through. I mean, I made people on my dorm room floor watch it with me that had never watched it before. I was like, no, this is a thing and you're going to do it. That's all that is going to happen.
Okay. What do you think you loved so much about 90210?
I think I liked that it was because I kind of grew up with my grandma watching soap operas, and I would see that she had her daily shows, and I think there was some quality of that to it. But it's that thing when you're young, right? Like you like to watch just a little bit older than you, like trying to traverse the world. And in my 9-year-old brain, that seemed real. Like, oh,
That's what high school's going to be like.
This is like what it is. Donna Martin.
Yeah,
like,
free
what?
Donna Martin.
Yeah. No.
Donna Martin graduates. It's not free Donna Martin. It's Donna Martin graduates.
Yeah,
right?
it's Donna Martin graduates. Although I did read a snippet that Jason Priestley actually had the people on set yell, Donna Martin masturbates.
Oh.
But they knew that they would do a loop with the audio, so they didn't stop.
Yeah. Okay.
And he today still tells that story in interviews.
Great. That doesn't make you look so good, Jason
I
Priestley.
know,
That didn't
also-
age well, that story.
I don't think, does he have anything else?
No.
I guess let him have that
Ian
story.
Ziering had Sharknado.
Oh, yeah.
But Jason
the whole
Priestley did
series.
not. Do you stand by your love of 90210?
Yeah, I would watch it now. The original. I don't want to reboot.
Oh, no.
No.
Good Lord,
I
no.
don't need a reboot.
Never.
No, and if there was a diner called the Peach Pit, I'd go in every time.
The Peach Pit got some brand name musicians. They got a lot of people.
Yes.
Wasn't there the Peach Pit After Dark, too? That, like, yeah.
Oh
Which
my
I thought
gosh, I
was a weird
forgot
name,
about
'cause
that.
I remember Cinemax had a Cinemax After Dark thing where they
Yes.
showed dirty movies, and it's like,
Yeah.
are they showing dirty movies at the Peach
Am I
Pit?
making
Was
that
what's
name up,
happening?
or was that the right name?
No, that
I
was
think
the
you're
name.
right. I
Yeah.
just totally forgot about that.
Yeah. It was like you went in the diner, and then you went in the back room, and it was Clubland.
Yes.
And there was, like, spin
Which
doctors
is
or
such
something.
an interesting concept for a diner when
Yeah.
you think about it. I mean, can you imagine like a
It's
straight
Beverly
diner
Hills,
just turned into
Aaron.
a club?
That's what happens in Beverly Hills.
That's true. 90210.
90210.
Forgot.
Yeah.
Not to brag, but it was in a Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills just last year.
What? Was there a Cheesecake After Dark situation?
I mean, it was pretty dark in there. They didn't say this is Cheesecake After Dark, but it was dark. It was implied.
So in 2022,
Yes.
you went to
Oh.
Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills.
I need
Well
all the
done.
details.
Yeah.
No, I was there to visit my friend who lives in Los Angeles, and they had a Golden Girls pop-up restaurant thing.
That's right.
And we were killing time waiting for our reservation. So, I mean, the pandemic, it's been tough on Beverly Hills. There was a lot of things that were closed, to be honest with you. And we stumbled upon a Cheesecake Factory. And
They'll survive the apocalypse.
I was just like, this is it, you guys. I've made it.
Yeah.
I've done it. If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it. We did it. How did that rate against the Golden Girls pop-up then?
The Golden Girls pop thing was fun, and it was a nice time, and I enjoyed the time I was there with my friend. But it was sort of, you had like 4 dishes to choose from.
Okay. All right.
And they didn't have.
Whereas Cheesecake Factory has like 5 bajillion.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheesecake
okay.
Factory has an 85-page menu.
Yes. Yeah.
And they didn't have a liquor license, so we're like drinking juice. With our the food was good, and they had Blanche's bedroom set and the kitchen set and stuff.
Okay.
And it was lots of photo ops.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
But anyway, 5 stars for the Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills.
right, Heath, how about you? What's a memory, a pop culture thing from 1990 that you want to
Probably
discuss?
the thing that comes to mind first is the movie Pretty Woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that came out in March of 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And thinking about it now, it should have been darker. It should have been darker.
Should have been darker.
Should have been darker.
It should have been that original movie 3000, right? That it was going to be. Did you guys hear that
Yes.
story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, originally, the story
be,
was
like,
going to
real
be
dark.
darker, but you think
Yeah.
of like, a sex worker and maybe a emotionally disconnected businessman who, they're probably not, it's probably not going to be as sweet as it turned out to be.
Yeah.
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 But I think collectively, I think as a society, as a world, we all just agreed we were not going to dwell on that. We were going to,
Yeah, we
take
were
it-
just going to let it happen.
take it as what it is.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know, I was doing research for this, and I didn't realize that it's based on an opera.
It is?
Yeah, it's based on, let me see, I wrote it down.
There's an opera about sex workers?
Verdi's La
sure is.
Traviata. And I don't think in the opera, I don't think she was a sex worker. I think it was like a king type person or,
okay.
a guy that was kind of up here, and she was more of just like a lowly street lady. Yeah.
This is like why we had to bring him in because he just elevated the podcast.
You
We
did.
got opera.
You did.
He
brought
said it
in-
expertly.
Yeah.
We all know my pronunciation's bad usually, so that was impressive.
But like Julia Roberts was nominated for an Academy Award for this movie.
She was?
She was?
Uh-huh.
How did I forget that?
Yeah.
For that?
Uh-huh.
She had a year because then she was also in Flatliners that year.
She had a year.
She was in Steel Magnolias the year before.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Julia.
One of our categories that we thought of was like, should movies be rebooted from that time? And I thought of a couple movies that have been rebooted that should not have been. One of them was Flatliners.
Right.
Flatliners should not have been rebooted.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a weird movie to start
Yes.
with, okay?
Yeah.
But come on, you can't replace Kiefer Sutherland and Julia Roberts and Jason
No.
Patrick. And who else was in it? Other people. You can't
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
replace those other people.
Those other, yeah.
Can't do it. No. Another movie that should not have been rebooted, Total Recall.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I love me Colin Farrell. I love Colin Farrell. But I love cheap animatronic 1990
Yes.
Total Recall.
Yeah.
Tomas.
And it had Sharon Stone in it.
It
was
had
the-
Sharon
that's
Stone.
true.
First
That's
movies.
true.
Yeah.
So do you think Pretty Woman should be rebooted as the 3000? Like, should we get the original?
No.
Yeah.
At this point, how dare you
Yeah.
even talk about that?
Yeah. You can't really touch it.
We also can't, another movie that can't be touched from that year is Ghost.
Oh,
You
right,
can't touch Patrick Swayze or Whoopi Goldberg.
Right.
Can you even imagine? They're going to probably try and reboot it at some point.
You know they are.
But how
yeah.
dare you?
Yeah.
In
They
advance.
made it into a Broadway musical.
They did?
Yeah.
This is a theme I do not understand.
I don't
There are
either.
so many movies turning into musicals I do not understand.
And
Like
I
Back
can't-
to the Future? What the? No. No.
The music alone, like having to do that, it just makes me think that it's like some composer that is a little past his prime and he's like, oh, it's kind of like an intellectual property assignment for a writer.
Yeah.
Like, I have to write to the outline. And this guy's like, I have to write songs for some Back to the Future. Like, who thought this was a good idea to make it a musical? Sorry, apologies, never seen it. Maybe it's great, but
It's, I refuse on principle.
you should.
I refuse.
You should. Same with Ghost. I'm not sure I want to see that
Yeah.
in a.
Yeah, I don't.
What do we think is behind that? Is it like a nostalgia thing that's like making us
I
make
think it's-
musicals?
I think it's that there's name recognition.
Yes.
So when
Yeah.
the people that are paying for all this stuff, they're like, oh, well, people are going to recognize, we're going to get at least a few months of, slack-jawed yokels coming in from Indiana
That's
or
true.
Iowa.
Yeah, or Iowa.
Iowa,
Come
for
into
sure.
New York and go see it because they're like, oh, I remember that movie. You know,
Right.
more than a title that they have they know nothing about.
It's a smaller hill to get over than like
Right.
a brand new you've never heard of come see a musical.
Or they could just make something good. I mean, I think it'll work out if you just
Imagine
make
that.
something
Yes.
good and,
Yeah.
and cast the right
Yes.
people,
Speaking of good, in my research, I found that there was another movie that came out in 1990 called Frankenhooker.
I'm aghast.
Why was 1990 the year about sex workers and prostitutes?
But I had to look up the plot, so I did. And it was some like mad scientist who is deeply in love with his wife, and then his wife dies, and he decides, well, I'm gonna make her alive again, so I'm gonna go get a hooker and put her head on the hooker's body, so I get a better body at the same time. And so now my wife is Frankenhooker.
Dang it. Okay.
Yeah.
I like how it's a little misogynistic too. It's like, I want my wife back, but not like, in
I
her,
want her to look
soft
better.
and shitty body.
Yeah.
I'd like her head on a nice body, please.
Yeah. So that movie exists. I did not take the additional step. What?
Is Kiefer Sutherland in that movie?
He's probably providing a voice.
Sharon Stone is, though.
Yeah. I did not take the extra step of watching it.
Oh, shoot.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask a follow-up question if he then has her, like if he's using her as a sex worker for money.
I mean, with the name like Frankenhooker,
right?
We've got to be
That's
doing
where it's
that,
going, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the misogyny continues.
Yes.
Also, final note on movies. Did you guys remember the movie Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael?
No.
Okay, I was obsessed with this movie, and it came out in 1990. It was Winona Ryder, and she had a year because she had
came
Mermaids,
out that year too.
Edward Scissorhands, and then this one.
Wow.
And this one had Jeff Daniels and like a bunch of people that you would recognize from 80s and 90s movies. And it's about, her name in the movie is Dinky Bassetti.
Okay. All right.
Which is a name someone thought of and decided Winona Ryder should play.
Yes.
That'd be a good name for a cat. It really would.
It really would.
That's a terrific cat name.
Yeah. So Dinky is a 15-year-old sort of outcast, and she's living in this
I can't imagine why.
Right?
She has everything going for her.
Her parents kind of suck. They're trying to send her to a rehab school somewhere because she's weird. And then they're living in this small town, and there was a young woman named Roxy Carmichael who moved away 15 years ago, and she's decided, she's made it big. She's famous now, so she's going to come home. And this town is absurdly obsessed with Roxy. They've turned her childhood home into a museum. They're throwing like this whole ball in honor of Roxy Carmichael. And Winona Ryder, Dinky Bassetti, becomes convinced that Roxy Carmichael is her mom because she's adopted. And so the movie then continues along that vein.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
And then there's a little teen romance with a boy an actor that then disappeared, as he rightly should have. He was, yeah. It was very 1990. Hair, clothes, acid washed, everything.
I mean, it kind of sounds good. I'm kind of in.
It is. I rewatched it.
Okay.
And there's a few moments where, like, said love interest joins in everyone making fun of her, and then tells her he likes her. He's like, and you're gonna have to like dress better if you want to be my girlfriend, you know, that kind of stuff. And no one like pushes back on it. Like that's the kind of message that the movie then promotes.
That tracks, yeah.
And there's like a makeover component at the end. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
But hey, in 1990. I watched that somewhere on HBO, somewhere. I recorded it on VHS, and I watched that VHS a lot.
This is exactly why you were meant for this podcast.
Yeah.
Because these are the gems that we need that I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
And you literally recorded it on a VHS.
I sure did.
Do you have any idea where that VHS might be?
Lost to the Annals of Time.
Dang it.
The Annals of Time? The Annals of Time.
I like annals.
I like the Annals. Lost to the Annals of Time. Is that a better name for this show?
Yeah. The Annals of Time.
Whoa!
Second title possibility.
Yeah.
The my mom rented Pretty Woman for me so many times at the gas station in Parkersburg that they just were like, "We'll just sell it to you."
Oh my
God! They're like, "You're the only one that's
God.
renting this," so they just sold it to her for like $5.
Wow.
And that's how I got my own copy of Pretty Woman on VHS.
That's a hack.
Yeah.
In today's world, that's a hack. You got a movie just because you rented it so much.
You're not going to get that on iTunes, kids. You're
not
going to
gonna
go
do that.
and rent Pretty Woman on iTunes enough times that iTunes is going to call you and be like, you know
Like,
what?
listen,
we'll just
just
sell it to
keep
you.
it.
Buy it.
Yeah.
You can have it. That made me immediately think of video stores and like the joy of walking around and seeing what was available. Oh, somebody rented it. What a world.
I worked at Hy-Vee when I was in high school, which is the Iowa grocery store. It's also other states, right?
Yeah.
Like it's through the Midwest.
I think there's one in Missouri,
Kansas.
maybe Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I worked in many roles, but one of them was at the video store in Hy-Vee.
That's right.
And that was a time because the amount of people that would return their movies late and then demand that they don't have to pay late fees or return it and then say, I didn't get to rewind it. So then I had to rewind it. Like all 1990s issues.
When I think of video store, I immediately think of this tape that was hanging down that was melted. And it was like, don't leave VHS in a hot car. It was obviously a problem at ours. People were melting VHS cassettes all over the place.
All right, what's your next category, Aaron?
I was peeking through
Surprise
here,
us.
trying to think. This is a random one, but I discovered in some research that this is the year that Microsoft started putting solitaire on all of their computers.
Oh.
Okay, but weird enough as it is, but this is the reason why. Because they thought it would help users as computers got more popular with their dragging and clicking skills.
Oh.
So it was a training tool.
Yeah, it was a training tool, which led me to think, why am I still playing solitaire? I'm addicted to that game. I have it on my phone.
Because someone in 1990 was like,
put it on all the
is the perfect
computers.
thing.
Yeah. Whoa. And it has endured this long. I don't think it gets enough credit. If you just threw it on in 1990 as a training tool, I mean, we all remember Oregon Trail and the, Mavis teaches typing or whatever, but they're long gone. Solitaire, still around. I know, not a popular pop culture.
But this is something we would never have known had you not done some research and dug in.
Yeah, and I was
this is
just
what the
amazed.
annals of time is about.
Exactly.
Solitaire.
Exactly. I still do a daily solitaire challenge every day.
love
That's
a
not
good
saying
game
a
of
lot about
solitaire.
me, but
So that means there's a whole generation of people that didn't grow up with solitaire
right,
on there.
They probably don't know how to use computers.
Yeah.
right.
Dummies.
They can't even drag and click because they never learned black on red, red on black.
How did you guys learn to type? Did you have typing class?
We had a typing class in
Yeah, we had a
middle
typing
school
class,
or maybe
yeah.
early high school.
I got my parents, we got a computer from Sears.
Ooh,
And
throwback.
so, this was high, top of the line computer. Mm-hmm. And there was a software that came with it that was teach yourself how to type. And so I remember it was just hitting the Q key again. But me, whatever age I was, 11, 12, was this is the best. So I taught myself how to type.
Of course you did. That's not surprising. Yeah. The rest of us had to be forced, and Amy was like, "No worries, I got a break between welcome home. I'm gonna learn how to type."
And we had our computer in the basement, in a windowless room, and I was like, "Nope, it's great.
Yeah.
This is better than hanging out with my baby brothers. Woohoo!"
Well, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Solitaire. Can you beat solitaire, Heath?
I can't beat it, but I can join it.
Okay.
I would
great.
say for
Yes.
me it was the song "All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You" by Heart.
Damn. Yes. That was a whole story.
Yes,
It
if you
was a
listen to the
movie.
lyrics, they're insane. Essentially, the story of the song is a woman picks up a guy
Yep.
who's just in the middle of a rainstorm, takes him to a hotel, which if you really listen to the lyrics, it says it's a place she knows well. So apparently she's done this before.
She bangs it out with hitchhikers all the time.
She just is trying to get someone to get her pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's just, they're kind of, there's some mild slut shaming in the lyrics
There
of this
is.
song. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I know, what I didn't know before now was that Shania Twain's ex-husband, Mutt
Lang.
he wrote it.
He wrote a shit ton of stuff
He
at that
did.
time.
Yeah.
He wrote that.
Yeah.
Good for a guy named Mutt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do know, and I also, I thought it was Heart's one of their biggest hit songs ever, but
makes
they don't
sense.
like to perform it anymore. It's sort of
Really?
which
makes sense.
I get, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good for yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it's unclear to me whether, because at the end she's in the lyrics in the song she says, please understand I'm in love with another man.
That's right.
And it makes you wonder, was she with that person when she was picking up hitchhikers to have sex?
That
To get
was
pregnant?
immediately my thought. Yeah.
Because if the man she was in love with couldn't get her pregnant,
Yeah.
for whatever medical reasons that are probably not his fault, and we shouldn't judge him
Trolling the
for
road.
Wouldn't he-
Yeah, but then that's
donors.
that's where you went. It's just
Sperm donors on the road.
Wouldn't he notice? Wouldn't
Yeah.
there be some questions oh, well, I think the doctor said I couldn't have done this, so.
yeah. How did it?
Yeah.
It's a miracle.
Uh-huh. And this, again, and with Pretty Woman, maybe there's a theme here for me, but there is. I shouldn't have been listening to this stuff at this age. Like, it shouldn't seem normal to a 14-year-old to be like, she picked, she picked
up a guy.
Yeah.
That's such a good point, because I remember like listening to this with my mom, and we're like, such a love story.
Such a love story.
What was wrong with us?
Grew up too fast.
Story.
It was Frankenhooker times. That's what was wrong with us.
When you have a movie like that, yeah.
I do. Not to keep dwelling on Pretty Woman, although
Please.
Why not?
could.
Yeah.
I do recall in middle school a girl who I went to school with who liked to quote the line, $50, Grandpa, for 75, the wife can watch. And she wasn't like, I don't think she really got what she was saying, but there's like this 14-year-old girl who's like, offering
herself up.
offering herself up
to anyone who will. I want to talk about crushes.
Oh, yeah.
Who we loved in 1990.
Okay.
I fell in love with my first gay boy at church.
Oh, was it Jesus?
Besides Jesus, okay. I mean, obviously, there was sexy Jesus, and then there was this boy that turned out later gay.
As a side note, I heard this week someone say, I'm not even going to give you any context. I'm just going to give you the line.
Okay.
Jesus loves a good Birkenstock joke. It has reverberated almost every day. And when you said Jesus, that was the first thing that popped in my head.
I mean, of course he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. First crush.
Yeah.
Church.
And this crush lasted like all through high school. And I remember there was one time he must have been like trying to be straight or something, because like we went on a date. But it was at the time, and I'll probably talk about this in future episodes, where I was going to have jaw surgery. So I had a mouthful of not only braces, but I had hooks going up above the braces, so much so that I had taught myself never to smile. Oh. This went on for about 6 months, and this was the time he decided, yep, let's try a lady. So we...
I want to try a lady. I'm going to find an unhappy one.
A deeply unhappy one, and one that gives me an excuse not to kiss her. Yeah, we went to a movie, and as the movie was going on, I was so miserable. I was like, I've blown my shot. I've blown it.
Oh, no.
Absolutely blown it.
What made you think you blew it? Just the mouth?
The fact that I wasn't smiling.
Oh.
And I was barely talking. Oh. And I was like, he's going to see my hooks. He's going to see my hooks.
And for then they said hooves. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh.
Were you able to eat at this time?
Yeah.
I mean, I assume you weren't just starving for 6 months. I assume that somehow you got some nutrition.
No, I was. I mean, it was very much like because I had braces twice. I had braces all through junior high, and then I got them back in high school as they were preparing me for this surgery. Which, by the way, the surgery didn't work. I'm actually going to a TMJ specialist tomorrow because my jaw hurts all the fucking time.
No.
Anyway.
Is it from too much smiling?
Too much smiling. I overcompensated. Yeah. I went the other way.
Oh, no.
No, I was eating and stuff, obviously. But, like, my mom would cut the corn off the cob and things like this, trying to like make things.
Because I had this picture of you sitting in the movie theater with him, and he bought you popcorn, and you were trying to fake it, and you couldn't eat it, so you're just like taking popcorn, just like toss it over your shoulder. Like there's a pile
I think
of
I was
popcorn
also doing the girl thing of like, no, I'm not hungry.
I don't eat
that
popcorn.
kind of thing. Yeah. I never eat popcorn.
I never eat popcorn.
Never.
Butter? Oh my god! What? Stop it!
Stop
Stop!
Yeah, and besides that, I also had a crush on River Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
River. Oh man,
he was beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And he was in some of my. He was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was good. I also had a crush.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who?
Well, I thought I was really clever because his name was Brad, and I secretly to my friends would call him Milton Bradley, which is not a good. It's not a good code name.
No, that's not sexy.
It has his name in it.
Yeah.
But I thought I was super clever. And the thing that's really questionable at myself at this time is that the thing that got me was that he drank his milk by like turning his hand around the carton and doing this. And I was like, wow, he's so smooth.
Also, because this is a podcast and no one had a visual, you were curving your hand around like a
Oh,
hook.
I'm sorry. You're right. I did.
You were curving your hand like a hook. Like he had a hook.
He came in. Okay, take your hand straight towards the milk
Yeah.
carton. You think you're going to pick it up.
Yep.
Instead, you go around the back, grip it from the front in the most awkward way possible, and drink out of it. And he somehow managed to make that happen.
Uh-huh.
I still, to this day, can't tell you why.
Because he knew it would make the girls go wild.
I think it was I think it was a sign of his absolutely douchey personality. But I, at the time, thought.
I assumed it was carpal tunnel.
At age 9.
Just getting it, teaching himself typing. I can't drink milk. Oh. And I always gave him my milk because I couldn't stand drinking milk out of those cartons.
Oh.
Well, and as we mentioned, I went to Catholic school, so the nuns would often shame you if you didn't eat everything. Like you were required to eat everything on your plate. And so I had to get my milk off because they would shake your milk carton to either make sure you didn't stuff food in it or that you drank it. So I'd have to like offload it to someone. They'd have to drink it and I'd have to take it back.
What the?
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not drinking that.
How does that help the cult? I don't understand.
Healthy bones.
Yeah, healthy bones. Yeah. Healthy
Make
bones.
sure their initiates don't get osteoporosis.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. Mm-hmm. Did you have a crush at the time, Keith?
I think probably Julia Roberts, but that's just because
yeah.
I thought that's, I was like, that seemed like the assignment. Like I wanted to do the assignment right.
Yeah.
Because everyone was in love with her, so
Yes,
I'm going to do the
yes.
assignment. That makes sense.
And I was just like, she's a convincing sex worker. She likes I Love Lucy.
I do have to say, there's still something about her mouth/smile that I'm always like, what? I always want to look at it a little bit more.
There's just so many teeth. There's
So many
teeth. I mean, I assume it's within the realm of normal. I mean, I don't know, but it just seems like there's more than the average person.
Yes. I think I loved her too because she was a redhead. And I was like, oh, there's a famous redhead. And look how pretty she is. And look, she's fucking Richard Gere. That's great. Yeah. Great news for me. I guess.
Perfect news.
I don't know.
If you wanted Richard Gere.
Women supporting women. That's what I said.
Even at 13, I knew what was up. Yeah.
You were a feminist from the day you came out.
That's great news for me. Oh, I love that. Well,
all right, Aaron, what you got for us?
Okay. Listen, we know I grew up to be a true crime fanatic.
Yeah, you sure
That
did.
started early.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be Jane Pauley. And this is back when she hosted like the nighttime specials, where she got all the good interviews or she took us deep into a murder. Dateline wasn't always murder then. It was, topical. But
Not to interrupt, but when you said I want to be Jane Pauley, I thought you said I want to be Jay Pauley. And I'm like, who's Pauley? I'm like, not Pauly Shore.
Pauly Shore, yeah. So one of the biggest art crimes ever happened during 1990.
Art crimes?
Art crimes. And still
A-R-T,
remains.
the
A-R-T.
word
I think she's talking about Frankenhooker.
Yeah. It's a Frankenhooker. It is.
It is. And it still remains unsolved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened in the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston.
Okay.
And a couple guys showed up. They were in police uniforms. And they knew there was 2 security guards and one was on a round and the other one was at the door. And they said, hey, there's a disturbance in the courtyard. We got a call on the security system or whatever. They let them in. They tied up the 2 security guards, said, we'll see you in a year. That was a direct quote. And stole a bunch of art and left. And they got away with it. Like $500 million worth of art.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And they found it's popped up different places, like individual pieces a few times, but they've never recovered. And they think they know the 2 suspects, or that's what the FBI says, that they think they know who they are, but they're both dead. They didn't know at all. They just, enough time passed and they were like, we can say they're dead and it's fine. But it was never solved. And it blew my mind.
So you at 9 years old were like, this is it.
This is great. I need to know everything about this. I need to understand from the inside out. I need to know if those security guards got fired.
Yeah.
I need to know why they felt like it was necessary to repeat that quote over and over. We'll see you in a year, which sounds like a throwaway, like we're laughing, but they took it serious. They're like, we didn't think that they were going to come back for a year. Well, the museum would open the next day, sir. I mean, I think it was somewhat hidden, but it wasn't like no one is ever going to find this spot in the museum. Like the security guards are just gone and someday we're going to find their bones. Like they found them within the same night.
These tiny little skeletons.
Yeah. We thought we'd be here for a year.
Yeah.
That's what they said. So tells me then maybe your hiring protocols weren't where they needed to be for security guards.
Sure.
Fair.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, stealing art like that, what do you do with it once it's stolen? Like, do you just want it for your house? Because you can't really sell it. Because if you sell it to somebody, like, at some point, it's going to be discovered that you stole it.
Yeah. You have
That's a good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of worthless in some ways. Because you can't really fence it without... I would assume that there was probably some big inner network of rich people that did.
It's a Bond
fence it or
villain,
something.
and it's a super villain of some sort that has all the art and buys all the art.
Yeah.
And
It's a guy like in Glass Onion. And you go and he like pulls, he's like, do you want to do something really secret? And he like pulls the curtain, it's in a glass case, and you're like, okay.
It's some douche that is using it to impress an
Ladies.
impressionable girl.
Yeah. Who doesn't know the art anyway, so it's not really working like he
And
thinks.
it's also like, why am I here?
Why am I here?
This was a bad move.
I was just
He's
hitchhiking.
going to see my hooks.
But the thing that I really liked about the story is that I kept thinking that they were going to get caught because how do you keep that a secret? How do you steal $500 million worth of art and you just never tell anyone?
Yeah.
Like you had to tell someone.
Oh, yeah.
And who do you trust enough to tell, not to turn on you? Like, I just feel like if you're the type of person that you want to do that and you did it successfully, it's got to be eating at you that you can't be like, that was me.
For sure.
Like 100% that was me. No, it wasn't. Yeah.
How many people was it? Two. Maybe they're a couple. They're soulmates.
Yeah.
So they've decided they're never going to tell anyone.
And they just sit around until they died, according to the FBI.
And they just regale each other with their stories.
Remember when you did that?
Yeah.
Remember when you told the security guard he was going to be there for a year and he believed you?
Yeah.
I feel like one of them was suspicious that the other one was maybe going to break up with them. So they were like, let's rob this museum, and then if you ever leave, I'll turn you in. Like,
Oh, it was coercion of
That's so much better.
Right. It was lovers blackmail.
Yes. Lovers blackmail.
Also a good name for podcast.
Yes.
Terrific.
Fuzzy memories, lovers blackmail. Oh, man.
I also thought earlier when you said great news for me, it's a great podcast title. Great news for me.
I'm a redhead. I could be a hooker. That's great. Nailed it. Heath, you got something for us? Another category, perhaps?
It wasn't a movie. I know movie songs are on the list, and since we can't just keep talking about Pretty Woman and Roxette and It Must Have Been Love,
You can.
I think we could spend some time talking about "Hold On" by Wilson Phillips that came out that year.
That was this year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure was. I actually went
man.
through and made a list of all the songs that are still on my Spotify from that year, and Hold On was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's endured.
Wow. I don't even know where to go from there because that's...
It almost needs
That changed the world.
It did. It did. I think.
Who would we be without Wilson Phillips?
I think my favorite scene. There's two scenes from the video that I love the most. It's when they do the kind of hit the bridge about 2/3 of the way through, and they're doing the march down the boardwalk, and it's someday somebody's gonna, and they're just yeah. And then at one point they're on the beach, and there's China and Wendy were the two thinner women in the group, and they're like, you can see skin, you can see legs, shoulders, they've got, and then they've got poor Carney, in a head to toe suit, and it's like, you can maybe see, like, her hands. It's just like, who picked out their outfits for this? Like, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't, like, who wears a suit to the beach?
Hide her body and put her in the back.
Yep.
Because we can't kick her out because she's a great singer.
Right.
She's holding it together, really.
She's holding it together, but we got to put the skinny girls out front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so blatant what they were trying to do. They might as well have just had, like, words flashing on the bottom of the screen that's like, it's not okay to be not
fat.
thin.
Yeah, exactly. Fat is bad. Yeah.
We were just earlier this summer. I was at Pride, and we were at a bar, and being prideful, and
So full of pride.
a remix of this song came on, and I almost lost my mind.
Remix.
Wait, in joy or in horror?
Like, in joy.
Okay,
I was happy to be hearing it, but I was just like, of course a remix. They should have done a remix of this a long time ago.
And that should be a Pride anthem.
Uh-huh.
It should. Can anyone name another Wilson Phillips song?
Release Me. That was the follow-up.
Okay.
Because the
you
first
held
one
on,
was hold
and now
on,
you
and then
need
it
to
was
release
me. It's like, make up your mind.
It's a lot of mismessaging. Okay. All right. Uh-huh.
There was more. They had like 5 songs off that
Yeah,
first
that album
CD.
was huge.
Yeah, it was for a long time.
It's
They
just Hold
kept
On just
turning
took
them out.
over.
Yeah.
And then I can't think of another
And then it came
song.
back with Bridesmaids like
It
10 years
did.
ago. Yeah.
Which is, it should.
It should.
It was
wonderful.
perfect. Yeah.
I saw them in concert.
Did you win?
Yeah, it was sort of. They were riding the wave of the Bridesmaids thing.
Oh, okay. All
And they
right.
were playing at.
Was it at Pride?
No, it was at Prairie Meadows.
It should
It
have
was
been
at the
at Pride.
casino here in Des Moines.
Prairie Meadows. Our local casino. That sounds right.
And I remember the tickets were not very expensive. I remember buying them, and then like as the show got closer, I felt bad. I was conflicted because I was like, I kind of bought these as a joke, and I feel weird about going and standing there in front of them. Like I don't want, is that mean to just go stand there and be like, haha, you idiots? And but I was like, no, we'll go. My husband and I went, and I was like, we'll be nice, we'll be polite, we'll cheer them on and stuff. And it was so weird because we were like in the third row.
Oh my gosh. What was the crowd like? Who was in the crowd?
The crowd was middle-aged women,
Sure.
mostly.
Yep. That
who
sounds right.
Were no longer familiar with what their limits were as far as alcohol.
Oh
went.
yeah, that's important.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And people would disappear from their seats for like 15 minutes, and they'd come back with like 4 bottles of beer.
Oh.
And it was just for them. Like they would just sit there and they were drinking this beer. And then at one point,
that's a bad idea.
At one point the band invited people up on stage.
No.
And there was no security. And
That's
so there was
dangerous.
just probably 100 people on stage with them. You couldn't see them. They were clearly scared.
Oh my gosh.
And then they finally got people to go back to their seats. But like during this whole time, there were people on stage trying to take selfies.
Yeah.
And this was sort of a little bit before, smartphones as we have them now. So it's people with flip phones trying to take selfies, and they're not doing it right. So they just keep doing it over and over again.
No. Oh no.
The high point of the evening for me was when a woman who was very drunk came and stood in the aisle right in front of Michael and I. And we were sitting, and I was like, could you move? I asked her nicely, I thought. And then she was like, why don't you stand up? And I said, or you could move. And she said, or you could stand up.
Oh, so this was just a standoff.
Oh no.
Sitting standoff. Oh my God.
And at that point, she walked away a few seconds later. But it's just like, did I almost get into a fight at a Wilson Phillips concert?
Was she wearing a t-shirt that said Mama Bear?
Probably.
Probably. Yeah.
What was Michael's reaction to Wilson Phillips?
Yeah.
First off, did he remember the song?
He remembered the song. And he was, he was sort of like, I think he was being a good sport about it.
Okay.
He could have picked where he could be that night. I don't think it would have been at a Wilson Phillips concert at Prairie Meadows. I think he was interested to see what it was like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as we know, Michael is highly optimistic.
Yes.
And open to things. Uh-huh. And it's a wonder that I am friends with him and that you are married to him.
Yes.
Boggles my mind every day in a lovely way. Whereas your husband, you guys make sense in a deep way. You two are just very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we are. Very different in a lot of ways, but very similar.
Do you think Mike would have gone to a Wilson Phillips concert?
If I bought the tickets and said we're going, he'd been like,
he would have been like, all right.
Yeah. He wouldn't have any questions.
All right.
Until maybe when we got there, and then he'd be like, wait, what?
Wait, who are we seeing?
He blindly trusts me, even though many times I've taken advantage of that. Many, many times I've gotten us into situations we should not be in, ever.
They give good stories.
They do. What can you do? And we both attract weirdos.
Weirdos.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Would you consider that you attract weirdos, Heath?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you do.
I mean, look at you two.
Yeah, obviously.
That's true.
Here we are.
And that lady at the Wilson Film.
That's immediately who I thought of. That's true. I mean, we did make you sign a billion-year contract, so you let us into your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I forgot about the billion-year contract.
Yeah, now you're stuck.
That's the vibe I put out.
Like, weirdos, let me in. Okay, well, I have a memory of an after-school special.
Ooh, I love those.
Which was Over the Limit. Do you remember this one?
First of all, that the name is they all have just blended together.
Can we guess what it was about just based on the title? I assume it was about drinking, right?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes. Good call. Good call. Because the titles were always on the nose.
We should,
right?
That's a game we should play
We
at some
should play
point.
that.
Just read after school special
we
titles.
should, because I actually, in my research, I was trying to what after school specials came out when, and there was an exhaustive website that listed every one by year and 25 years worth. And we should play a game of what this was.
I'd also like to play a game of listing plot points from 90210 and see which ones were real and which ones weren't.
That's genius.
Yeah,
yes.
do two that were a lie and one that was true, and you have to pick which one.
Maybe every 90s episode we do that because it ran all through the 90s.
It did. Boom.
Yeah.
All through the 90s. Yes, I like that.
Over the Limit was about two teenagers. I think it was two teenagers. They got drunk and they drove.
Oh, no.
And they ended up killing somebody.
Oh, no.
And then they hid it.
Oh.
And the guilt just ate at them until, there was some trial or something. And they had to, come out, we did it! Kind of thing.
Did they go to jail?
I don't remember.
Are you sure this wasn't I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I was just going to say.
Which came first, this one or I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Definitely this one.
But overall, it just made me think of, they were very earnest, those shows.
Uh-huh.
They were very, there was no subtlety. They really just hammered it home.
Heavy-handed.
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 Yep, that's a good way to describe it. Also, full of product placement.
Oh.
Because
Well, who wants their product in that?
Yeah.
Bush Light.
cereals and stuff. It's on YouTube, and you can see the chapter markers, and every 5 minutes there's a commercial for Kick cereal or something like that.
Oh,
Which I loved Kick cereal.
I
by the
did
way.
too.
Yeah, I
so
did.
wholesome.
Yeah,
Also very hard to eat.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
But they were kid tested and mother
approved.
So I don't know, who knows where Dad was?
Yeah, Dad didn't approve.
Didn't
Dad
matter.
wasn't around. He was a deadbeat.
No, Dad was like, that cereal's too loud. Shut your mouth when you chew.
Dad was with his other family. He had moved on.
Dad was in that hotel.
Dad was and the galley accidentally got pregnant after she picked him up off the side of the road. He was like, "Oh wait, I've got another kid. Oh shit!
Oh shit! He has my eyes too. Damn it!
Oh, it's so obvious.
So many eyes.
Wow. After school specials.
There was one I remember we watched in health class, and it was who was Ally McBeal? Who's the actress that played her?
Callista Flockhart.
Yeah, Callista Flockhart was in it, and she was bulimic.
Oh, that was yes.
Yeah.
I remember that one very clearly.
Yeah, and I remember two things from it clearly. That she was said if you drank a bunch of water before a meal, it would fill you up, and so you wouldn't eat as much. And that when she would throw her food up, she would throw it up in glass jars and keep it in her closet.
Yes.
And it was like...
Yes. Her closet was full of fucking
Right.
glass jars with vomit in it.
Yes, and it's like, well, of course someone is going to find these.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Why
just
didn't we use a toilet?
Right.
Why didn't we flush away the
Yeah,
evidence?
why were you not
Right.
flushing it?
Yeah, or even throw it out the window. I don't know, like just dump it in the trash can
And
somewhere,
also,
you know?
how can you control
Yeah.
vomiting into a glass jar?
Yeah, I reject that
logistics of
premise.
that.
Yeah.
But I remember watching it, and it felt like an instruction manual for
Right.
bulimia.
Right,
It
they
was
were
like,
giving
oh,
tips.
okay. I think I even tried. Like, could I stick my finger down my throat? The answer was no. It would not allow me.
Because
It
of
was
the hooks.
I think it was more in my stomach. It's like, no, food is supposed to stay
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah, don't
so
do that to
we're
your
not going to let you
esophagus.
do any weirdness to try and be a size. that you're
Also,
not.
Callista Flockhart, who like traditionally
So
looks like her
skinny.
bones could break if a bird flies by,
Uh-huh.
is an interesting.
She was also a teen model. That's what was her character. She was a high school student, but she was also like a teen model too.
Huh. Which felt like it was a legitimate career path at that time.
Yeah.
It did, didn't it?
Maybe that's like today's influencers.
You're right. Yeah.
The youths.
Youths. I remember when Mason was like in kindergarten or first grade and they had to fill out this thing of, what do you want to be? And they give it to you. They do it at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. And his were, traditional things. But I think one of them was like scientist. And the teacher said, oh, it was nice to not see like YouTuber. And I was like, really? Just across the board. She's like, yeah, that's a lot of them. It's just, I want to be a YouTube star.
I mean, I can't fault him because I remember like around this time, it felt like if you just walked in a mall, you would be discovered as the next model or the next pop star.
You're getting glamour shots. So you were a step closer than the rest of us
I think this was actually maybe the year I did get the glamour shots.
Yeah.
Not by choice, let me remind you.
No, but still,
Okay.
You were a step closer than we were.
Yeah.
Well, it was a forced endeavor to try and make me a little more girly, and it worked, and it horrified me worse. And I was like, well, I'm going to go the opposite direction then.
Yeah.
Pants all the time.
Pants
All the time.
Also, good podcast name.
We're so good at this.
We're so good at naming things.
We're so good at naming things.
If you would like us to name your podcast, please send a self-addressed stamped envelope and a check for $25.
Some cereal box tops.
Yeah.
Send them our way.
Self-addressed. I still get one of those sometimes for the business. Like a company or something will send a self-addressed envelope and it's always shocking. Like you open it and you're like, oh.
There's still some publishing, like presses that ask you to send them. Like first they ask you to send hard copies. I'm like, why are we doing this in 2023? And then they say include a SASE and it's like, what?
That's wild. It's just
wild.
wild behavior.
It's wild.
Getting reckless with stamps. And they just went up.
I've got a question for you guys as we wrap up.
Yes.
Would you say there's maybe like a word or a phrase that would encapsulate this year for you and some of your key memories, your key experiences?
Iambic pentameter.
Oh shit, you were poems.
Boom.
Yeah.
I had no idea what that was. Okay. I would just say rhyming. Low level rhyming.
No, we're going to stick with the first one. That's a podcast name too. Iambic pentameter. Yeah.
That's a surefire skip.
People won't be able to search for it. They'll be like, how do you spell
How do you spell pentameter?
Yeah. What is this?
Is there an I in there?
What? God.
Do you have anything, Heath?
Probably like, I don't know, this is dumb, but like the beginning,
Yeah.
For something like that's
Yeah.
when kind of, it was the new decade and
Yeah.
I started high school that year and sort of, and that was probably when it first dawned on me at least that like at some point in the next few years, 10 years later, it was not going to be 19, whatever
Exactly.
anymore. It was going to be 2000, which really seemed like,
A big deal.
The future.
we will be teleporting by then.
Indeed.
There will be flying cars.
Indeed. Would you say the future has been disappointing?
Yes, every day.
Yep.
Would you say that that's because of the world or because just we're adults and we're middle-aged adults and we got to deal with middle-aged adult life?
I think a combination of those two things. I think, there's a fair amount of just like, the standards are fair. Mine anyway are pretty low.
Yeah.
It's pretty low and it's still somehow the world's not meeting them.
Yeah.
There's some things though that you're like, oh, okay, I can appreciate that now that I'm, older.
Yeah.
But other things that I'm like, this is a crock of shit.
Which feels like a term from 1990.
Yeah.
Well done.
Also,
You did that on purpose, didn't you? Yeah.
Also, viable podcast name.
A crock or a crock of shit?
A crock of shit.
A crock
Crock of shit.
And how do we spell that crock? Is it C-R-O-C, like the shoe, or C-R-O-C-K?
I would put a K on it, I think.
Yeah, like
C-R-O-C-K.
country crock.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. All right.
Or a country crock of shit.
Built-in sponsorship.
Right.
Oh, my God. Built-in sponsorship. You're right.
Country crock of shit.
Why wouldn't they want to be
We
involved?
could talk about margarine and how it steered us wrong.
That needs to be like our catchphrase for anything that's a country crock of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to remember that. I think my word will be Frankenhooker, because why shouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't it be? I didn't actually watch it, but now that I know it existed back then.
It's actually a good description of 1990. Just a weird mashup of things, trying to make it work, put it together. 90s didn't know what it wanted to be yet. It was like, are we still the 80s, or we're going to do our own thing?
Yeah. I had an alternate word, which was snot, because I had an embarrassing memory that I hadn't yet shared, which was I was like in the hallway at school, like there were locker bays, right? And so I was in my locker bay, and there was like either a popular girl or a popular boy that came up to me for some reason. I don't know why. And I sneezed, and I thought that I had like erased the evidence somewhere. And at some point, as I'm talking to them, I realized there's a big old thing of snot on my shirt. And I'm like, how do I do this? And what I did was probably make it worse by kind of just trying to like.
Oh, no.
You can't see this, but she's wiping her hand across her chest.
I'm wiping it across my breast, trying to remove it. And then just sort of holding on to it. Now I got snot in my hand. And I'm talking to popular person. And realizing my shot at popularity is gone. Like I had a shot. Let's be clear. There was
Unlike
no
the
shot.
snot, it was gone.
That was not just smeared.
I feel like that describes who I was in 1990 as well.
Yeah, that's relatable, though.
We've all got snot memories, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, thank you for joining us on Fuzzy Memories.
If you like the show, you should tell your friends. You should be sharing good things with people you like.
Obviously.
I don't know why I have to tell you that.
What? But you do.
You do. I mean,
and there's an edge of anger in your voice that
it's because I'm a parent and I'm so done telling things I shouldn't have to tell. But that's fine. Also, this is just a personal note, but if you're going to throw clothes in a basket, get them in the basket.
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
Wow, so we're using our outro as a message to your children right now.
It's a direct message.
Okay, that's great.
Yep.
Great.
How confident are we that they'll still be listening at this point?
Zero. Well,
Evan might.
Evan will, because you two are here.
Yeah.
All right.
Evan
He
likes
listened
us.
to all the episodes of Broads and Books that you were on.
Nice.
And only listened to the parts where she was talking on Broads and Books. And would only say things to me such as, you didn't laugh hard enough at that joke, it was funnier than that. Or other critiques that are sort of hard to fix about yourself.
So, Heath, you and I are a hit with the
right.
16-year-old.
Nice.
Because he's going to tell all his friends about his mom's middle-aged friends.
Podcast, for sure. But you should do like he does and go to your socials.
Yeah.
And
Tell everybody.
do all the things that you do on the socials.
Do all the things.
So until next time, stay rad.